Hey, what is going on, guys? Andrew Trades here, and today I'm going to be talking about a stock that ARK purchased on February 1st, and it's definitely one of my favorite stocks so far, and they purchased a big amount, so it's definitely something that we have to talk about. Now, as you can see from your screen right now, ARK purchased 620,000 shares of DraftKings in their ARK BOUGHT ETF, which is their next generation ETF. Now, if you're not sure what DraftKings is, it's a digital sports entertainment and gaming company created to fuel the competitive spirit of sports fans with products that range across daily fantasy, regulated gaming, and digital media. It was actually one of the best SPAC acquisitions of 2020 when they merged with Diamond Eagle Acquisiton. Now, it's by far the number one daily fantasy sports app on the market, and it's definitely one of the biggest players out there and still has a ton of room to grow. Now, I have used their app before, and I did like it a lot. I used it for a while to do some sports betting, and it's definitely a lot of fun to use and definitely very addicting. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about why I like this purchase from Cathie and ARK Invest, and I'm also going to talk about some upcoming events that are going to be really important for DraftKings stock and some recent news that we had that is definitely very bullish for the future. And of course, if you like this video and you like my channel, make sure you subscribe. We're going to continue to come out with more content, and make sure you turn on the notification bell because a lot of the content that I put out is time sensitive, so you want to be here as quickly as possible. So I am a huge fan of the sports betting industry, and I do think that it has made substantial progress in the past few years and definitely has a larger market to get into. Now, DraftKings and Penn National Gaming are the two big stocks out there on the market that are public currently that deal with the sports betting space. And DraftKings is the king of daily fantasy sports, as FanDuel is not a public company yet. So this leaves most of the market share out for DraftKings to capitalize on and continue to capitalize on as long as FanDuel stays private and as long as the industry continues to grow through legalization. Now, of course, investing into these sports betting stocks, you do have some risk, and that risk is these not getting legalized in certain states. But personally, I don't think that's going to happen. A majority of states have already legalized sports betting and sports gambling, and I think that's going to continue, and the entire United States and, of course, all parts of the world are going to legalize sports betting. Now, DraftKings ended up merging at the height of the pandemic, ironically, when most of these sports were shut down, so people weren't expecting too much because the sports were shut down, they didn't expect much revenues. Now, during this time, DraftKings needed to find some sort of sport that was going to help supplement while all the other sports shut down, and that was actually esports. Now, we all know the sports that most people bet on is basketball, baseball, football, even golf, but this is where esports actually started to grow within the industry, and this is what the CEO, Jason Robbins, had to say about esports during that time.
Well, esports was really small for us until about 2 months ago, and really it was the only thing for a little while that people were still playing. And some sports have started to come back, but esports is stuck. It's been a huge growth area over the last couple months for us, and hard to say what it'll look like once the traditional sports are back. But I think a lot of people are finding it fun, and it's also a matter of just getting people to try something new. And it's interesting. We thought about, how do we engage customers, and esports was something where we knew we had a great product, and if people just tried it, that they would like it.
And as you can see from that clip, esports has been growing well, and it definitely helped them throughout the pandemic when most of the sports were shut down. And I think that's kind of a hidden gem because a lot of people don't understand that people watch esports and a lot of people like to bet on them. And now that all the sports have come back about 9 months later, they're doing a lot better in terms of revenue. Now, they also have an earnings report coming up for Q4, but more on that later. Now, DraftKings got a deal in September 2019 to represent the NFL in the United States, and they just recently closed a deal with NFL Canada. Now, this is huge because they're getting access to a Canadian market, and as you can see right here, they even predicted that the market potential in just Ontario is 1.5 to 2.1 billion in gross gaming revenue. Now, Canada still has some rules about sports betting, but I think those rules are going to be lifted, and that's going to give DraftKings access to a larger market share. Now, the stock price didn't really do much when this news was announced, but I think this is actually potentially something that's going to be really huge for the company, and I do believe that ARK and Cathie are definitely going to capitalize this. Yes, I do know that this article was posted after and this news came out after, but I think they could see where DraftKings was going with their business and their expansion of their business. And we know how much ARK Invest and Cathie like to take risks on disruptive innovation, and I think this risk is definitely going to pay off. Now, some other really bullish news: on January 6th, DraftKings actually went up 9% because Governor Cuomo from New York plans to authorize mobile sports betting. Now, this would make New York the biggest state to legalize all of sports betting, and of course, that's going to reflect on the stock price, and that's going to reflect on their revenues a lot. If they manage to get New York to legalize all of sports betting, that's going to be a lot more people that are going to participate in DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and their sportsbook. And this can also send a wave to all the other states to legalize sports betting. Now, at the end of January, we also got the news that Michigan is legalizing sports betting, and that's huge because they're actually the second largest state to legalize it so far, which is going to result in more revenues for DraftKings. And as expected, this article here that was posted just on the 17th said that Michigan online sportsbooks brought in more than $115 million in sports bets during the last 10 days of January. Now, it also tells us that if New York ends up legalizing all sports gambling in sports books, then we're going to see another big state give DraftKings a lot of revenue. Now, right around when this Michigan news came out, we actually got an upgrade on DraftKings from Goldman Sachs from $45 to $65 and from a neutral to a buy rating. Now, the analyst expects DraftKings sales to continue to surge because they have a sustained market-leading position in new and existing markets, they have the ability to participate in the economics of single-operator states, and the presence of national partnerships that should allow them to accelerate growth and achieve scale sooner than the broader peer group. Now, this upgrade makes sense. It kind of ties together everything that we just talked about with the national expansion into Canada, and then, of course, the assets to expand to separate states like Michigan and New York. And of course, once we get more states to start to legalize sports betting, then we're going to see more upgrades from different banks and firms because they're going to understand the control that DraftKings has over this market and the opportunity there that ARK Invest sees. Now, DraftKings actually did manage to hit all-time highs on their stock price after ARK Invest bought in, but it since has cooled down and has sold off a decent amount. Now, DraftKings actually has an important earnings coming up, and I do think they're going to beat because recently in the fourth quarter, they had NFL playoffs, which is going to drive in a lot of revenue, and of course, the NBA season started. And virtually no sports were shut down during this time, so they don't have any handicapped revenues due to the pandemic. Now, DraftKings has been a nice and steady uptrend ever since it went public. Now, personally, I do think that the sports gambling industry is going to be a huge one in the future. More and more people are starting to bet on sports games and parlays and stuff like that instead of just going to the casino. And I do like the fact that ARK is taking advantage of this possible opportunity that they see with DraftKings, and I think that DraftKings is going to continue to be the leader in the market for a long time. Now, I know I talk about covered calls a lot, but it is a viable strategy, especially with DraftKings. It's a bit volatile of a stock, but that means that you're going to get good premiums out of it. As you can see, about 10% out of the money, you're still getting over $100 just in a weekly contract. Now, of course, these might be boosted up a little bit due to the implied volatility going into earnings. Stocks like to make really big moves, so that's why the implied volatility is going to be high, and that's why the premiums are going to cost a lot. Now, of course, don't take my advice. This isn't financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. Make sure you do your own research, but if you are holding on to DraftKings for a long time and for the long-term investment, you probably don't want to do covered calls because you might get exercised. Now, due to all the bullish news that we went over in the past couple months, and of course with ARK Invest and Cathie Wood investing into the stock again, I think that this stock is going to continue to grow in the future, especially if it continues to get states legalized for sports betting. Now, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments what you think about DraftKings. I know it's been a pretty hype stock recently because of ARK Invest buying. It's been super volatile. A lot of people have been trading it. So I want to know what you guys have been doing. Have you been buying for the long term? Have you been trading, or are you just staying away from the sports betting industry in general due to the legalizations? But other than that, that's going to be the end of the video. I have a video in the making talking about ARK and deep learning, so that one's going to be really interesting. I've had a lot of fun researching it, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're on the road to 2K subs, and I'll see you guys in the next one.